Hi everybody, this is Black Rhino Ranger. Now recently, the Disventure Camp people at Odd Nations Cartoons has put out a new news about their show Disventure Camp. This is what they said. Big news! Everyone, Disventure Camp Season 2 is getting a remake. We're rewriting and reanimating the entire season to match the quality of our other seasons. Expect a full release between November and December, with 2 episodes dropping each week. While we're working hard to keep costs minimal, there will be some expenses involved. We really appreciate your support on Patreon. The remake won't alter the elimination order or major plot points. Instead, we're enhancing the flow and ensuring everything stays true to the original Disventure Camp All-Stars and Greetings canon. Expect big improvements with visuals, script, and audio. We can't wait for you to watch it. Now, if you rewatch Disventure Camp Season 2, you may notice that, there are some things about it that's a bit weird. Like, for example, the motion tweens are a bit lacking in frame rate. Like, instead of the usual 24 frame per second type of moving, it's usually like 12. They move like 12 frames per second, which can be a little bit distracting at times. And not to mention, some of the voice acting some of them has a bit of a mic issues. Like Kai, for example, with his whenever he recorded his voice, it sounds a bit weird. Like he needed a better mic. And also, there are some actors that they used to be a part of, but they left and they had to be replaced. Like Allie has at least 3 different voice actresses throughout the entirety of season 2 and All Stars. And Carol's voice actress, she got fired, and now they're probably looking for a replacement. Now, seeing how it's being remade may seem like a blessing at first, but then again, it could be a curse, because from what I understand, they're probably gonna remove. Wait. Before that, there is another improvement which I think might happen with Yule. If you remember in the original version of Disventure Camp Season 2, you may notice that Yule is a bit yellow, like for how some East Asian characters are often portrayed. But in All Stars, you may notice that his skin tone is changed a little bit. It's a similar case with MK from Total Drama. You notice that her skin tone changed. This is her original skin tone in the early version of Season 1 and some early releases of it, but in the later version of Season 1 and of course Season 2, her skin changed a bit. Originally, it's more like Kitty and Emma from the Redonkulous Mace. Now it's a bit more like Heather. It's to avoid the controversy of East Asians being yellow. I'm saying this as a guy who is of Chinese descent myself. I may have a little bit of yellow inside on my tummy, but but never mind on that. But for you, I think his is a bit more. The later version, his is a bit more in between. Like there's a slight yellow, but also a slight pale at the same time. Like it's a mixture in between, a bit of a nice balance, if you will. Now, for me personally, I say there are yellow people do exist, and I understand the needing to make sure the yellow East Asian thing is becoming less and less common because it was controversial, especially during the World Wars, of how the Japanese and Chinese were depicted. But they do exist, yes, and I think allow both the pale and yellow East Asians. Again, as a guy of Chinese descent, and I'm living in a country where we have a variety of different Asians, so I don't know. Have both. I understand, but never mind. I don't want to progress any further. Anyway, so with these changes that are happening in Disventure Camp, yeah, it may seem like a blessing, as we might see how the voice actors will improve, or they might need to, and how the animation will go. It may also seem like a curse because I also heard that they are perhaps going to remove it. A person said over here says, "Please tell me you won't be deleting the original season," but unfortunately they said we will. We might move it to the second channel and keep it up with season 1 beta. Now this is when I feel a bit concerned because if they were going to remove something, they might remove some of the views. It might damage their algorithm and stuff because YouTube's algorithm kind of changes a bit, especially when you remove something that has over 1 million views or thousands of views. It can affect their algorithm, and perhaps it's best not they don't do this because remember they had a bit of a financial problem ever since their videos got taken down by a false copyright claimant and by some random guy who was impersonating one of their members. So they need all the financial help they can get, and I don't think removing the original version of season 2 will help them any better. In fact, this practice, it kind of reminds me of something else that was similar. It's the Star Wars special editions. George Lucas, at the time, he and his crew, they made a great movie series. They made a great original trilogy. The prequels and the sequel series are a bit divisive. You either love them or you hate them. You're somewhere in between. You find something good about them or you see something bad about them. And whether you like them or not, they are. It is the. Well, it was something what am I doing? Now George Lucas, when he did make a masterpiece with the original trilogy, but when but then in the 90s he decided to take the Star Wars releases and the original trilogy, retooled them with more updated effects like extra CGI and extra bits here and there. For example, the extra CGI dinosaur creatures, doing some shots, or adding in Jabba the Hutt in areas where they wanted to film that scene. They wanted to include that scene in, but at the time they didn't have the technology to include Jabba walking, so they decided to cut that scene off and replace it with the Greedo scene. But in the later versions, they replaced him with the CGI. And of course, there's that controversial part where Anakin's head got switched with Hayden Christensen's head, and people either go completely berserk or they think maybe it was a necessary change. If you've seen Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. Now these and some of these changes some of them are a bit weird. Like you remember the Jabba the Hutt's place with the monsters theme. In the original, it had a bit of a jazzy, disco-y feel, but in the later versions, it's Jedi rocks. Where they seem like a bit of a poppy song of the 90s or something, and then this random alien creature goes, "Walk away, chicka chicka cha cha to the door, but the door to the door, nah, ha, yeah." It was some people really cringed at that part. They think it's awful. They don't do that. Now, but these are moments they're not the main controversy to why a lot of people didn't like the special editions. The big controversy is that George Lucas wants us to forget that the original versions existed, and they only want us to consider the special editions as the canon. He has made it clear that he does not want the original trilogy to be made public, the original versions of the original trilogy to be made public anymore. He has not made any DVD or Blu-ray re-releases. He only wants people to focus on the special editions of the original trilogy, and that's why a lot of people hated George Lucas because of it, especially with the Han's shot first thing where it's either Greedo who shot first or Han shot first. People say, heck, in South Park, they say, no, it doesn't belong to you. Star Wars belongs to everyone. We cherish your trilogy, and also because you don't want to show the original trilogy in its original format, you're kind of denying what made the originals special to the folks of the 70s or 80s. You're kind of erasing history. Now, you could say George Lucas was ashamed with these practical effects, and he was kind of like looking back at it, and he's like, oh, and he wants the special editions. He's like, that's nice and nice. So that I understand that some people don't like looking back at their old works, and some people are just critical, just want people to stop talking about them because they were terrible. And Walt Disney himself had a similar case with the Golden Touch. It was based on the story of King Midas with the Golden Touch, and everything he touches turned to gold. In the original version, he had a daughter, and he accidentally turned her to gold, and he wants his daughter back. In this one, he had no daughter. He's just all by himself, and the only thing that he wants to take back is the fact that if he doesn't, he'll starve to death. Walt Disney hated what he has made. He tried other people. He asked for other directors to make their own version and storyboard their own version of this, and he wasn't satisfied, so he decided to do it himself. But he himself was unsatisfied with it because he made the king one-dimensional, too greedy, and unsympathetic. That's when he decided to stop being a director and become a full producer, and he forbade every single one of his writers and directors, his crew members, to ever bring this up. As another classic cartoonist I know that regrets his earlier works, Chuck Jones with Elmer's Candid Camera. It showcases Elmer Fudd trying to take a picture, but then this prototype version of Bugs Bunny named Happy Hair, he just fumbles around and fools around with it. Chuck Jones was very critical with how he was with the short. In fact, this line over here, he says, "In this cartoon, we find Bugs Bunny stumbling, fumbling, and mumbling around, vainly seeking a personality of which to hang him dialogue and action. Or, in better words than mine, walk around in his umbilical in his hand, looking for some place to plug it in. It's obvious when one views this cartoon, which I recommend only if you're going to die in ennui, that my conception of timing and dialogue was formed by watching the action of the La Brea tar pits. It would be complimentary to call it sluggish. Not only Bugs suffered at my hands, but difficult as it is to make an unassertive character like Elmer Fudd into a flat, complete schmuck, I managed." And he also had this additional thing in case anybody was to take a peek at the short. Perhaps the kindest thing to say about Elmer's Candid Camera is that it taught everyone what not to do and how not to do it. So yeah, that's it's real. Yes, like I said, some people don't like to look back at some of their earlier works, and they wanted people to distance themselves from them. And Walt Disney forbade about Golden Touch. But there's also there's the thing with the live action remakes. But say what you will about them. There are some bits of his. You can either love them or you hate them. In fact, most people like the original animated films more than the remakes. At least Disney did not decide to get rid of the animated films. They let them use it. Walt Disney doesn't want people to watch The Golden Touch, and Chuck Jones didn't want people to watch Elmer's Candid Camera. But the other folks at Disney, they let you keep the animated films as well as the live-action remakes, so you have the option to watch either one of them. You can like at least one of the remakes more than the original, or you can like the original more than the remake, and I'm sure a lot of you prefer the originals more than the remakes. I agree, most of them are superior to the originals. There are some remakes that I do love, like The Jungle Book, but there are some I really do not like Mulan 2020. But at least I have the option. I have the option to watch either Mulans, either Jungle Books, either Lion Kings. I have that option. They're available on Disney Plus. They're available on streaming, on digital downloads, on Blu-ray, on DVD. You have the options for either one of them. And here's another piece of history that that also has been remade, but the original is still being kept. My Skylanders Christmas animations. Looking back at some of my early Skylanders animations and stuff, I agree that some of them can be a little bit cringy, and I probably should have done better directing and better checking on the story at the time. But I do find them as a nice little time capsule to rework, to look back on. And I've also now the Redux, the Skylanders Christmas Redux, is basically my attempt to try and remake the Christmas animations, because I thought maybe with my current knowledge on how to tell the story, or with how I managed to make it with my animation process, I thought, what if I try remaking it with a better story, better conflict, better things. But I'm sure some of you may prefer the original more, because there's something charming about their the awkward animation and the voices and stuff. Or some of you may prefer the original with the remake with better graphics, better humor, better voice acting, or better details and other things. Again, but I won't remove any of my animations. You have the option to watch either of the version. You have the option to watch the Redux. You have the option to watch the original. I won't get rid of them because they are an important piece of history. Which I think is kind of sad that they're gonna get rid of their Disventure Camp original version of the Disventure Camp from their main channel. Perhaps move it to their next one, or just remove it immediately. They said they will remove it, but they didn't say they will put it on a second channel. They said they might, and the might means they could put them there, or they may not. They will just remove them immediately, and they want people to forget the original version even existed. Again, with doing this, you're kind of releasing history and why a lot of people liked Disventure Camp to begin with. Can you imagine me suddenly deciding to get rid of all of my animations because I no longer look fondly back on them, and because Skylanders hasn't been popular in years, and I need a new direction, and why I need to get new views, I need a new life or stuff like that? No. I'm keeping them because they're part of history. They're part of a development of who I am and who I became today. To erase all this is like I'm erasing a part of myself, a piece of my character, a piece of what made me the animator you guys all know and love. So I'm sorry to say this, Jared, but please don't remove them. Have them unlisted if you can, but if you delete them, you might suffer some consequence. You might suffer another major blow like you had during those false copyright claimants. Rename them as beta, and unlist them if you should, but don't remove them. You never know what the algorithm might do to your channel if that happens. So please, fellas, reconsider your actions and preserve them the way they are. There. Think about that, okay? I hope you've enjoyed this video.